You're listening to the Broken Meeple Show, a podcast that speaks passionately about board games for the benefit of those who play them. My name's Luke Hector, best known for the Broken Meeple YouTube channel, and I'm an everyday gamer just like you. And I'll be talking about reviews, top 10s, and just about anything that connects me to board games, as long as I have a tea or coffee in hand, that is. So grab a cup, relax, and enjoy. And remember, it's only a game. Howdy, hey everybody, welcome to podcast 99. We're on the penultimate episode to the top 100? No, the number 100 podcast. That is still going to be a thing. So 2 weeks time, I have basically collated a bunch of questions from Patreons. No doubt, if you've got any questions, by all means fire them into this comment section. I suppose I can answer some of those as well. And I'll do my best to answer as many as I can on an offline Q&A, basically. So one giant questions and answers podcast to commemorate the fact that this show has been going on for 100 episodes, even though technically the channel's been going on for a lot longer and the actual YouTube channel has got like 1,000+ videos on it. It's like, yeah, but we're talking like this particular podcast has gone on in this format for 100 episodes. So I thought, well, I gotta do something, but I didn't want to go like bonkers. But you know, there's a bunch of questions that I've got. Some of them look pretty interesting, and it gives me a little bit of time to, I don't want to like sit down and prepare answers for every single one, because it would just take me forever to do that kind of research. But it's more that I've had a glimpse over the question and I thought, okay, these are the kind of things I should be like sort of starting to think about, so they're not completely, on the fly, like brand new when I see them. But yeah, that should be pretty sweet. Otherwise, it's been a bit of a stressful couple of weeks. I mean, as I said, work's been definitely high on the workload. There's various bits at work that are kind of grating me a little, and things will improve. They are getting better and better as time goes on, as stuff gets done and completed. It's just a case that I need to get to ideally the end of September. Once I get past September, not only does things like Essen and GridCon and HandyCon and all these other conventions start resurfacing, but then also my holiday in December, 2 weeks in the Arctic Circle, I'm looking forward to. But it just means that also my workload will be a bit less. Yes, I've got to constrain it down a bit because I need to get my work done before early December, which is shutting off a couple of weeks. But I'm confident a lot of that work's going to be done by the end of September, and then all I've got to do is just sort of casually move through the rest. So as long as other things at work don't screw me over, things are on the mend. But there has been a bit of stress with that. There's obviously sorting out bits at home. I've got my parents visiting literally this weekend. I'm recording this on Saturday morning. They arrive in an hour and a half. So I'm literally recording this podcast to get it done, because tomorrow when they leave, I'll only have enough time to edit the podcast. I won't have time to record one. So I got to obviously prep some of the house for that. I've just generally had quite a lot on. Next week's going to be a lot less active. Like after Tuesday, I don't think I've actually got anything planned for a while. And then we've got bank holiday weekend, which I've got no plans for. So it's like, it should be a nice, relatively chilled few days minus work, but that should be pretty good. And otherwise, the blog stuff has obviously been a little bit on the stressful side as well. I've put out quite a lot of heavy content lately, so since the last one, we had a full review for Wild Gardens, we had a full review for Daybreak, one for Arcs, more on that in a minute, and Check Game Edition's Best and Worst, and these videos have done pretty well, some better than others, but those were quite intensive reviews to put out. Maybe not so much Wild Gardens, but Daybreak, Arcs, and that Check Game Editions one, they took a long time to prep, they took a long time to edit, and they were big monster reviews. But also the stress does come with some of those reviews, because Daybreak and Arcs are kind of, they're not like, well, Arcs in particular is very popular amongst a niche group, and it's definitely getting a lot of praise from people, which is great, by all means. And Daybreak's had a decent amount of praise and won the Kenner Spiel. So I went into these two and came out with a more critical opinion of both. I don't think any of them are particularly, well, I don't know, Daybreak's almost close to bad, but Arcs I thought was average. I didn't think it was bad, I didn't think it was great either. I certainly didn't think that either of the two deserved the hype they got. The problem is, when you go after a game and give a critical opinion of it, oh boy, do you get backlash from it, particularly with Arcs. Arcs got me a lot of anxiety stress through dealing with some of the backlash. And that's not to say that, oh, everybody, suddenly disagree with it and that's a problem. No, by all means. I mean, stick your comments in there and say, yeah, I don't agree with these points, but, cool video. Thanks for doing it. I just reckon that I think this is better like this. I think this is better like this. When you're talking about the characteristics of the game. But I got quite a few posts that went more on the personal attack side, and certainly more of the insulting my game group side. Your game group's just dumb or too slow or whatever. And I'm sorry, but those are my friends you're talking about, or people that maybe I only see at game clubs that I consider to be good people. If you start attacking them, you have no business here. All right, okay. So I am very much one of these people that if you go after my family or friends, there will be hell to pay. I will not stand for that kind of thing. But, by all means, disagree with the points raised. That's fine. I ain't got a problem with that. But, there was quite a few personal stuff going around, and the Board Game Geek thread has a similar deal. But the problem is, YouTube actually filters out a few comments when they start getting hateful or swearing, or, they pick up the YouTube filter is a little bit overly sensitive, though. It picks up, like, a fair few stuff in held for review, and even if it doesn't have a swear word in it, sometimes it seems to be, I don't know what AI algorithm they use, but it's a little paranoid, I think, but it does pick stuff up. And it's when you look over them, it's kind of like, well, there's nothing wrong with that one, they just disagree with the points, that's fine, stick it in there. But then you get ones where it's like, they're insulting my credibility and insulting my friends and that, and it's just like, no, okay. So there is definitely an ordeal of that. But yeah, I mean, the vast majority of people agreed with the ARC's review. I mean, it is one of my lower percentages in terms of like and dislike ratio, but it's still 88.9. It's not like it's a terrible thing. It's just, whereas all my other videos are typically 100, 98, 95, 96, 98, last one I had with 88 was a podcast episode where I mentioned about Eurogamers don't screw other players. No idea why that one got a lower ratio, to be honest, but all the rest on this page are 90s, 100s, 90s, 90s, 100s, 100s, 90s. They're all really good. So for this one to have it, but then this one is like 500 likes and 62 dislikes. So there's quite a few fans of the game who don't like the fact that somebody is talking critical about their game. And it's like, fair enough. You're not going to please everybody. I still maintain the 5 out of 10 average rating I gave it. I still maintain the points I raised. People harped on me because I forgot about prelude actions, which, to be fair, hand up, I did forget that. There was a lot of stuff in there. I was talking about the game. I forgot to talk about prelude actions. Prelude actions are an important factor of the game. You can spend resources in order to, do various actions per your player board, and sometimes you might lock yourself out of those. But, they are cool, and they are a part of the game. But if you took them out, it doesn't suddenly make the game far worse for me. And then having them in doesn't suddenly make the game far better for me. So, yeah, fair enough. I forgot that bit, sorry. But it's not like it would have fundamentally changed the, it didn't change my rating of the game. Put it that way. It's not like, oh yeah, if I talked a little bit about prelude actions, I'd suddenly give it a 6 out of 10. It's like, no, I'm giving it a 5 out of 10. And to be fair, 5 out of 10, remember, this is my scale. 5 out of 10 is average. It's a game that I would still play. If you put it on the table and say, you know what, we fancy playing this week, you want to jump in as the 4th player, I'll play Arcs. It's not like I refuse to play the game again when a 5 out of 10. But everybody is so brainwashed into this idea from from watching a lot of other critics, where the scale literally starts at 7.5 and goes up to 10, and anything below 7.5 is considered complete garbage that you should never touch with a barge pole. That's not the case with me. That's not how I do reviews. So, certainly that, plus the home stuff, plus that, plus life in general. There has been quite a few, heavy chest, to deal with. But when I say heavy chest, this is kind of how the anxiety stuff manifests with me. It's basically, it doesn't affect my respiratory system too much, but what it does is that it makes my chest extremely heavy. So you feel like somebody's constricting it. It's a bit like somebody's grabbing a fist around the center of your rib cage and sort of just giving it a gentle squeeze, not crushing, not like, oh, I can't move or anything like that, but you notice it aches a bit, and it's like, it's not a particularly pleasant feeling. And so I have to do breathing exercises to try and get it. If I know something bad's going to happen at work, I could be having that feeling on the car journey, and I have to put on relaxation music and do some breathing stuff in the car. There's stuff I have to do. And I know I need to manage my stress a little bit more because of the fact that I do this as a hobby and have a day job and all this stuff, live alone, a lot of stuff that basically adds to that factor. The only thing I don't have that normally adds to stress is kids, so I'm probably saved from that bit, but I tend to make up for that with other things. So I need to regulate that a bit more. But, I think it's just that this is a bad couple of months. The summer is typically not a good period for me because, there's a lot of work to do. There's a lot of like major reviews. There's a few major, like big releases that obviously you have to try and get through. It's hot. It's humid. I don't like the weather. I have to keep cooling the house down. So I feel like all the time, and that's never a good feeling. So there's just I don't like summer, frankly. I think summer is just where things in my life generally go bad, and there's not much to look forward to in the summer because I don't really go to conventions in the summer because it's too hot, and I go to plenty of other conventions during the year, and I don't like going on holiday in the summer because everywhere is expensive, there's kids everywhere, and it's too hot anyway, unless I go up north, so it doesn't really work out for me. So my favorite times of the year is basically from kind of late September, early October, through all the way till about late April. Possibly mid-May, although May it's starting to get a bit hotter. There's the Games Expo then, but that's about it. So we're talking, from October to April, those 7 months is my favorite time of the year where things are just great, loads of stuff going on, temperature's great, and, birthdays and, holidays and stuff like that. The summer is just like June to August with a bit of September and May thrown in. It's just not my period of the year. So yeah, I mean, it's been a bit of a tough week, but by all means, thanks for watching the vids. Thanks for the support. Whether you agree or disagree with the points I raise in the video is fine. I totally welcome, civil debates. I just don't welcome uncivil debates. That's basically the deal. But yeah, there's more stuff on the way. And one thing I do want to do from a format perspective is not change. I want to basically do some of those quick, speedy reviews again. And I don't mean that, that weird segment I tried to do where it was like, the different intro and then I tried to do quick reviews and it didn't work. No, not that. And I'm still doing normal reviews. All I'm talking about is for tiny games where a full video doesn't work, because I've tried to do them in the podcast, but podcast reviews don't work. Because the problem you've got is if I do a podcast review, let's say, which one have I done recently where I did an actual review? Here we go. Yeah, podcast 98, in fact. I did a review of Free of a Kind in here, right? And I'm probably going to do another little mini review for Free of a Kind, actually. The problem is, if I want to now share this on the internet, I have to tell people timestamp between A and B is the review for Free of a Kind. People don't want to put in the effort to mess around with timestamps and stuff, and they don't want a shared episode on all a bunch of stuff that they're not interested in if they've got to just go to like a 4-minute segment to talk about a game. It also is a problem on Board Game Geek, because if I put this video on Board Game Geek, which I think I did actually for this one, again, I have to put a timestamp saying, go between these 2 timestamps, this is when I talk about Free of a Kind. But the thumbnail doesn't work because it's got all this other stuff on there that isn't relevant, and it just makes it a bit of a nightmare to share. I mean, even publishers aren't going to share something like this. They want a full dedicated video. So it's not working on that respect. So what I want to do is something similar to kind of what the Dice Tower does at the moment. Tom Vassar does like 3.5 minute, 4-minute reviews on very light games. And pretty much all he does is gives a tiny background, rules overview, quick summary and verdict, done. And that's essentially what I'm going to do. So I've got Free of a Kind, I've got a game called Clink by Rebel Studio, and I've also got Draft and Write Records by Inside Up Games. These games do not warrant a full 25+ minute review, and my reviews are getting long, but then there's a lot of detail. I mean, what was my Arcs review like? I mean, Arcs was a 40-minute review, nearly 39 minutes, 15 seconds. That is the longest review I think I have ever done. Even Daybreak was 30 minutes. Wild Gardens was 30 minutes. The fact of the matter is that I go into so much detail into games because obviously I want people to find them useful that it takes a while to do them. I can't spend 30 minutes talking about Draft and Write Records and it's not worth the effort to put in like all the movie clips, all the music, all the like cutscenes, the editing, the transitions, all of that for a game that's something like Free of a Kind, which is literally a tiny little party game that people might not even notice. So I've got to obviously balance the time to put in the video with the game itself. Speed reviews are literally just going to be normal intro, no new fancy intro, no nothing like that. I'm not going to overcomplicate it with stuff like that because that always takes up time. I'm literally just going to put in the normal intro, overview, summary and verdict, done. No movie clips, no extra little jokes thrown in, basic music for the thing, and that's it. No fancy stuff. The stuff that takes a million years to do in the editing and hopefully won't take me that long to record either. And these will just be normal. They'll just be called speed reviews or whatever, or quick reviews, whatever, or mini review. I'll just slot in the name, whatever, and that's it. So I don't have to spend ages trying to design a whole new format. I don't have to spend ages trying to edit a ton of stuff in these, but it just enables me to do one video, one game, one that I can share on the internet and social media, and it doesn't take up a ton of my time, and it keeps producing content for the show. So, those ones, I think, even if they only get like 500 to 1,000 views tops for those videos, the effort that's gone into them will kind of justify it. Because obviously if I spend all the time that it takes me, like hours and hours, to edit a 30-minute review for a game that only gets 500 views, it wasn't worth doing all that effort. But then, as much as Arcs has stressed me out completely doing that one, it is nearly at 10,000 views. I mean, my reviews rarely get above 5,000, let alone anywhere near 10. So certainly, as much as it has caused me a bit of stress, it definitely kind of is worth it from a views perspective. So it's, definitely one of those things I have to deal with. But yeah, that's basically the case. Some speedy reviews will come, and that's it. Anyway, 16 minutes in. Let's get on with the main event now that I can swig my drink. Lovely. I suppose side thing, actually, quickly, side thing I do want to mention, Essen. When I go to Essen this year, I haven't yet decided if I'm going to help out a booth, although given that you do get an exhibitor badge, I might actually want to do that. So I am going to see if, I don't know if Flat River Group want me back. There's a couple of publishers I'd like to talk to, maybe help them out, so we'll see. But, one thing I am doing is a meet and greet event. So there is a meet and greet thing that goes on at Essen, and I'm going to try and bring up the screen for it while I talk. But basically the idea is that this allows you to meet and greet your content creators that you want to talk to. Now a lot of this is taken up with German and European German and European creators, but I do want to also stress that there are some, British and American ones that do that. So was it Meet and Play? Here we go. I have found it. So Meet and Play. And Paul Grogan's done this a couple of times in the past with Gaming Rules, but I've never really had the time nor remembered to do it. This year I am going to do it. So basically, I think it's downstairs in, Saturday, October the 5th, from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. in what they call Salle Europa. It's one of the rooms at the bottom of the building, I think underneath Hall 1, like the entrance hall to Hall 1. I think that underneath that lobby, if I remember right. And basically, it's just basically going to be, right, okay, you can now meet your creators. Well, you book in slots. You could be there for the whole day. I've only booked in 1 hour. If they let us stay longer, I'll stay longer. But, I have booked in an hour. And I wonder if they put my thing up yet. No, they haven't put my logo up yet, but they have acknowledged my application. But basically at 3 o'clock on Saturday, in that room, Salle Europa, I will be there. So will Paul Grogan from Gaming Rules. You can chat to him there. And there's a bunch of other creators here that are worth chatting to. So, I will be there at 3 o'clock. Whether I stay any longer than 4 o'clock remains to be seen. It depends on whether they allow us to be in there much longer in terms of space or what to do. But Saturday is one of those days where it's nigh on impossible to be able to, play games because it's so busy. It's a nightmare to get into any demos. So Saturday's almost a bit of a write-off for Essen. I'd rather teach games at Saturdays, or I'd rather do stuff like this. So if I can stay there longer than an hour, I will. But at least definitely between 3 to 4 o'clock, I'll be there. Meet and play. You want to come and meet me? If you bump into me during the show, by all means, shake my hand and say hi. But if you want to properly sit down and chat with me, maybe play a filler game, I might bring something like vegetable stock, like some 5-6 minute fillers or something along. But yeah, if you want to sit down and chat to me in a, quieter location, ask proper questions where I'm not rushed to move somewhere else or anything like that, then by all means, come along to this event, and I'd love to see you there. I will keep reminding people of this on future podcasts and stuff leading up to Essen and as I get more details. Right, okay, so there's no reviews on this episode, no news. I just want to get straight into the main event, which is, another topic that the Patreons have suggested for me. I wonder if I've still got the... Here we go. Matthew Bailey, thank you for this one. This one was too long to do for the 100th episode. I figured this would actually be a podcast episode in itself. And what I'm going to do is talk about some mechanisms that I like and dislike. And I'm going to give games as examples and kind of just break down what it is about these mechanisms that I like and what I don't like. And it's not to say that any game with this mechanism I'll immediately buy or immediately hate. There are certainly exceptions to the rule. But these mechanisms are ones where if I know they're in a game, I'm that much more interested. Or sometimes this mechanism, when slotted into a game, could potentially make it better. So we're going to start with games that are, good. Mechanisms that are good. And this is in no particular order, so it's not like this is my favorite mechanism or anything like that. I can't really rank these. But let's start with 7 Wonders. So we're going to talk about drafting, and I'm more concerned about closed drafting. Open drafting is fine with 7 Wonders Duel and stuff like that, but I like a game that introduces the drafting of cards. Just simple. Here's a hand of cards, pick one that you like, and if once you've done that, you'll then get a new hand of cards, and you'll try to, make the best out of that hand. And this sort of stuff I just really like. I like this agonizing choice that you've got, where the things that you have, like the choices that you've got are limited by what hand you've grasped, and then you get a new set, like, oh, new stuff to look at, but I've still only got to pick one of these, and you have that agonizing choice of, but I really want this, but I really want that too, which one do I pick? And then if the game is designed well, you have an element of hate drafting, which is looking to the neighbor to your left or right, whichever way you're passing, and going, you want this. I probably should deny you this, but is it worth me taking the card? Got to weigh that option up. Okay, I don't like anything in this hand. I'm going to use one of them as a build underneath my Wonder, for example, in some Wonders. Well, if I'm going to put one of these under my Wonder, I should probably pick one that you're going to like. Well, you want Science, and I know you can build this Science card for free because of the one you bought before. So I'm going to put this one underneath, and I'm going to deny you that card. You can't build this Palace very easily because you don't have all the special resources. Haha, in your face. So, that sort of thing works well in 7 Wonders, and a really good drafting game has an element of hate drafting. Bad drafting games, sometimes you have that choice, but then it's like, well, you could deny someone that card, but honestly, it would just completely screw you over in the process, so why would you bother? Those are a little bit lacking. The other thing I like with this is this idea that the hand can come back round. So when you play this with less players, I like it more with less players because you have this situation where you look at this hand of cards and you're thinking, oh, okay, I like this, but I also like this. Well, it could come back round to me, but will I get it back again? I look at this Vineyard card here and it's like, well, there's a lot of red cards to my neighbors. I don't have many, but my neighbors do. This could get me a decent amount of money. Well, in that case, I need to think, well, what's the likelihood that one of these people are going to pick it? Well, they're not likely to because I don't know, he's got a lot of money. Will he really want more money? You might pick it. That's the risk. I don't think you will. So I'm going to pick this card that I really need now. This one's going to go around and hopefully, yay, it's come back and now I can play it. I like that decision as well. You could almost call it pseudo pusher luck, although as we'll get into later, it's not quite pusher luck, but it's not really pushing my luck. It's making an educated decision based on what I believe the other players are planning and making my assessment on that. So I do really like closed drafting in games. Sushi Go, 7 Wonders, even the draft and write records that I've got there. It's mostly just a roll and write, but it does have a drafting system in it, which does improve things a bit. But then also going back to my earlier point, hate drafting does not exist in the game, so there is an up and down in that respect. But yeah, I like a Terraforming Mars. Another example, if you play Terraforming Mars just by picking the cards randomly off the deck, then you're playing basically a 3-hour luck fest. But if you do the drafting, it does mitigate it up to a point. It certainly doesn't completely alleviate the fact that there definitely is an element of luck of the draw because of how tight some of the stuff is. but it is quite cool to have that drafting element in the game. And certainly I would only play Terraforming Mars if you are going to draft the cards. It does add a bit of length to the game. That is the problem. That is the downer of drafting. But for the most part, I quite like drafting used in, smaller games. Now, sometimes it's shoehorned into the setup for games. Like, oh, right, you've got some starting setup cards you could have. Well, we're going to draft these around. It's like, can't you just dish them out at random? Or can't you just give people 4 and they pick two out of them or something? It's like, it's shoehorned into a lot of setups and it really doesn't need to be. But yeah, I still really like drafting. All right, Runestones is the example for here, but I mean, I could pick pretty much any, game that has this. I do really like deck building, and for the most part, I am talking pure deck building. Now, it's not to say I don't like deck building when it's put into other games, but sometimes it is really shoehorned into some. Some games it works. Lost Ruins of Arnak. Love the game, but the deck building is a small part of it. Yeah, you buy more cards and that, but you can easily get your deck to be relatively streamlined, and you only have so much control over the deck. So the deck building is there, but it's not like a forefront of the game. Compare it to something like Dune Imperium, and the deck building is a little bit more on the forefront, but then you have so little control over the composition of your deck that it doesn't really feel like a deck builder either, and it just feels like I'm luck of the draw of the decks. I'm talking about a game where deck building is really like the major aspect. And so you could go to the original Dominion, for example, where that is clearly a deck building game. But there are other games where it's pure deck building with a bit of a twist. Runestones here is a perfect example of that. This game where you are, the actual mechanisms are pretty straightforward. You're collecting these colored gems. You trade them in for these artifact tokens. You trade them in for sets, which are worth points. And every time you trade a set, you get this cool runestone ability, which gives you a power-up for the rest of the game. And you decide whether you want to go for more points or quicker powers. That's the simplicity of the game. But you then have the card mechanism in it, which is brilliant. I really love this. I mean, firstly, kudos to Runestones. The fact that they make it so that left and right-handed people can read the cards fine. You don't trigger both sides. You only trigger one side. It's just left and right-handed people can use it. Not a lot of card games do this, and I wish more did, because, I mean, I'm not left-handed, but there are people that exist that are left-handed, why not cater for them? But the great thing with this game is that it throws a little twist on it by saying that when you play your cards, you have to play 2 cards, and the number value dictates which one of them gets trashed after you're done. So you have to get rid of the card out of your deck that has the higher value, which typically is your starter cards, but then the more powerful cards tend to be higher values. This is just such a cool little mechanism, and it just adds a little twist to it. But what I love about deck builders is the idea that I do have this deck that is basic at first, and then as the game progresses, I make it better and better, and I see the engine spinning, and it's rewarding to not only get cool cards to add to your deck, but to see them come out and be used in cool ways. This game also adds another mechanism I like, which I'm not going to talk about separately, I don't think. I don't know, maybe I could shoehorn it in. Well, let's see, I've got 4 that I'm not a fan of. Maybe I'll talk about that. Well, tell you what, let's just make it my 2 and 3 here. So, we're talking also... Nah, I'm going to save it for the next point. But yeah, so I like a deck builder where you get to create, combos with cards. And Runestones is one of them, Dominion's another. But, any game with just pure deck building is still one that I like. I mean, if I go to advanced search and look up deck building as a mechanic, cool blimey, do you get a lot of stuff in here. And the thing with this, though, is that it shoehorns every type of deck building that you can. So when you look at the list on Board Game Geek, oh blimey, does it go on forever. Come on, work with me here. I mean, look, it considers Gloomhaven to be a deck builder. I mean, yeah, you customize a deck sort of, but it's not really what I would call the forefront. And Terraforming Mars, you don't customize a deck in now, and not even deck building in the slightest. That doesn't make any sense. So yeah, this does like to throw up a lot of stupid ideas for it, but yeah, in fact, this is all full of rubbish. How is any of this deck building? What kind of... Oh, man. This is one thing I hate about Board Game Geek. It's just such a... deck, bag, and pool building is apparently including stuff like Scythe. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. There's got to be better examples here. Come on. Seriously? This is what it is. I mean, and I suppose I will get clear. I'm not talking about deck construction, like Lord of the Rings, the card game, Marvel Champions, and all that. No, no, no. I'm talking about the deck is basic in the game, and you create it during the game. All right, well, this is no use. Well done, BGG for being useless. But, you know, off the top of my head, as I now remember, Star Realms. Star Realms, brilliant. Lovely little quick game, doesn't take very long at all, comes in a tuck box so you can buy more sets, but this is a pure deck builder. You know, you literally have, you know, some cool basic rules for it, but the crux of the game is I play these cards, I can use them for battle or money. With money, I buy more cards, my deck gets better, I can customize it with 4 different factions, you know, and it's so simple and streamlined, and I love this game. But, you know, I do like a pure deck builder, and certainly you've got to throw a little bit of a twist in it now. You know, we've got so many deck builders that you can't just simply give me a deck builder. Runestone's perfect example. You know, Star Realms is one of the best of the pure simple deck builders, so I still really like it. I still really like Dominion, but if you come out with one now in 2024, I need more than just what we've seen before. So, but yeah, I mean, what's another game I played? I played a Tanto Core recently, and my friend has there's another one they make. It's something Rise of the Princesses or something like that. Oh, I can't remember. I think it's by the same. Let me have a look at Arclight Games. Maybe they got the same thing. Come on. Oh god, no, that's not it. I can't remember. It's something to do with princesses, and it's got the same anime thing. I mean, this one's about recruiting maids, which yeah, it certainly has a bit of an evocative theme to it. I mean, typical sort of anime maids and girl pictures and that. But it's a fun little deck builder. Again, pure. You try and build it up and stuff. But yeah, I'm going to struggle to remember what that one is. And I'm going to kick myself for not being able to think of it. Japanime games. Let's have a look. Maybe I can find it. Let's see, Tanto Core. Heart of Crown, there it is, Heart of Crown. So my friend has this one, and this one is basically Dominion with a twist, but this one is a cool little deck builder to play as well. So I enjoy this. You know, it takes a bit long with 3 or 4 players, but, you know, pure deck builders, I do get a kick out of. Right, next one, I'm going to go back to Runestones because this one illustrates this particular mechanic that I really like. And that is, oop, that's not working there. That is multi-use cards. This is the thing I was trying to get at with Runestones, because deck builders work great with multi-use cards because, you know, after all, you're using a bunch of cards and they don't always just have one thing. But where's the hand of cards in Runestones? Mind me, where's that image gone? But the idea with this is that, yes, you could use the cards for their abilities. Great. But what you can also use the cards for is to buy other cards. So there are 2 things that a card is useful for. Why is it so hard to find a picture of the game with the cards? Here we go. Let's go back to, here we go. There's one here. So yeah, you can use these for the gemstones or the abilities that are on them, but the top of the card shows a mana cost, and if you play so many with the same color, you use that as currency to buy the card. So you're thinking, well, I could use it for this, but I could also use it for that. That is something I really, really like. Another cool example for this is, oh, it's right behind me. There we go, Valley of the Kings. Valley of the Kings, another cool deck builder. In fact, this one actually goes well into the last one I just mentioned. But in this one, the cards, again, they are currency. You also have to put them in your tomb, so entombing, and you have them for their ability. So they have 3 uses apiece, and you have to decide how you're going to use those pieces. This is something I really enjoy. Even, let's go for something that is not a deck builder at all. I'm not the biggest fan of the game anymore. I kind of give it an average, maybe above average rating, but Maracaibo. It's got its mega fans. I think it's okay. It's got some problems, but the one thing I do like in Maracaibo is the card system. The card system I quite like, and this is another example where the cards are multi-use. So the whole map aspect I'm actually not that big a fan of, but the cards, you know, they are used as the resource, they're used as a travel thing, they've got their ability on there, and so I've got these cards available, and I'm thinking, what do I want to use this for? Do I want to use it for A, B, or C? And that part of Maracaibo I really like. So even a dry Euro can throw this aspect into games and still make me, you know, really like it. To a lesser extent, you could consider stuff like Earth, where the card could be its ability, but then it could also be just used as compost, and so they're worth points. You know, that's all really cool. But, you know, games where you have alternate uses for cards are still ones I quite like. Oh, I gotta be careful that my voice doesn't go before my parents get here. Whew. It is getting that way. All right, and then lastly, quite briefly, another mechanic I really do like. This one is only in 2 games, unfortunately, though. This is a mechanic that I do really like, but I really do want to see it in more games. I want to, I want to see this like used more often, and this is what I call the typewriter mechanic. I don't even know if it has an official name really, because only 2 games have done it, but I call it the typewriter mechanic because it's basically a system where your card action selection system or your action selection system behaves very much like a typewriter. So let's see what we got here. Somebody's done a, oh blimey, they've done a Lego organizer for Arc Nova. That is pretty cool looking, I must admit, but cool blimey, maybe that's a little bit overkill, but whatever. The main thing I want to get across here is those 5 action cards. So the way it works in Arc Nova is that you choose one of these cards to resolve. Its position dictates the strength of the action, and then once you have done the action, it then typewriter style moves back to the left, everything slides across, they get more powerful, that one gets weaker. So you can spam the same action, but it will be weak. Or you can take time to wait for an action to build up and up and up, and then it's super powerful, and then you trigger it. I love the way that you plan for this sort of stuff. The way that you can plan several turns ahead going, right, well, I'm going to use, let's see, if I use association now, I can get that university, I really need that. I want to be able to build an Avery. So build needs to get from 2 to 5. I need to use 3 cards that aren't build in order to get it there. Well, like I say, association, that will give me a university, great. But maybe I should put sponsors first, because if I do sponsors first, and when I do association, I can then level up sponsors quicker. But then somebody might nick my university. I need to be careful about that. But, well, I need some money. I don't have a sponsor. Fine, I'll sponsors 5, get some money. Then we associate, get the university. Then cards is a bit better. Now I'll draw some cards. Right, builds at 5 now. Or maybe I've got a temporary X token. I can boost it at 4. But, one way or another, I'm planning turns in advance in a simple manner, not crazy strategic manner like, big Lacerdas and stuff. But I'm sort of going through my typewriter thing going, that one there, that one first, and then that one moves to the back. Then I can shift that one, or that ability lets me shift another one to position 5. All right, well, that's cool. Let me do that. And on the 3rd action, because then that will be in 5, that will be in 1. And that sort of stuff just really worked for me. Now, Arc Nova is the 2nd game to have done this. The first game that did this mechanic was A New Dawn, which I really do need to get at again, actually. This is definitely going high on my has not been played in far too long pile, especially as I've got the expansion in it. But I really like this. It's a slightly more abstracted Sid Meier's Civilization game, but those photos aren't particularly good. All right, this will do. But it's one where, with the expansion, Terror Incognito or whatever it is, the map's there for you to explore. You do like a bit of trade, you do a bit of travel, you do a bit of combat, it's a bit of tech upgrading. It's classic Sid Meier's Civilization stuff, and I really enjoy it. But this one, as far as I'm aware, correct me if I'm wrong on this. If I'm wrong, please tell me where this came up before, but I think this pioneered the typewriter mechanic. So I want to try and get a better view of the, here we go, that's a better view for the cards. So you have these 5 cards, and they can be upgraded throughout the game, much like Arc Nova can once, but again, the card is the strength of the card action is dictated by its position in your row. And in the New Dawn, you've got, right, well, how many spaces does it level you up the tech track? Well, that depends on its strength. All right, I want to move my caravan. Well, how fast can it move? But also, where can it move? This bar above tells you the terrain you can move. So it's all right saying, well, I'm only going to use my my travel action in space 1, but then I've only got to go across meadows. That's fine. But it's like, now I got to get over this mountain range. I need it to be at strength 5 before I can do a mountain travel. So what can I use before then? Well, I can use my tech. I could do some masonry, and these will upgrade as time goes on. And it's just such a cool mechanic. I love it. And certainly this is, a very cool Civ game for me. Arc Nova was my favorite game of all time in the last top 100. So, this is such a cool mechanic, and I want to see it more often. I know it seems weird talking about a mechanic that's only appeared twice, but the fact that I love it so much means I want to see it more often. And honestly, I don't pay attention to Kickstarter, but if somebody on Kickstarter comes out with a game that utilizes a mechanic well, I want to know about it, because it really is one that I gravitate to at the moment. And I want to see it done more. Stop rehashing the same old trash and give us something that's not been done a lot before. I swear you could do some really cool stuff with this mechanism, and people just aren't exploring it enough. It doesn't have to be the most thematic implementation of it. I mean, there's no real thematic reason why you're using a typewriter mechanic for these two games, but it works. It's so much more interesting than just simple basic action selection. So I want to see it more. All right, well, that's the ones I'm going to talk about from a good perspective. And it's not to say I don't like other mechanics. I mean, I like point salads up to a point. No pun intended. I like the Dixit picture interpretation mechanic. There's a lot of mechanics I like, but these are 4 that I just want to highlight because they're a bit more common. Well, with the exception of the art. No, okay, that's a bad reason. I don't know. These are just 4 that really stand out to me as like, oh yeah, if I know it's got these mechanisms, I'm definitely a bit more interested. But there's plenty of other games I do like. Alright, well, let's talk about ones that I'm not a fan of. And these may be games I like, these may be games I hate. Paragrid is certainly a game I hate. But this is auctions. I'm not the biggest fan of auctions. Now, there is a little caveat with that. Quick, fixed bidding, I'm kind of fine with. Biblios is a quick filler game. You barely bid up to a maximum of like 5 coins before somebody says, right, that's it. And they're done nice and fast. And Ra, that's on my shelf still. Ra uses free number tokens in your collection. That is what you are bidding with. It is a fixed number. Your choice is simple. That I don't mind, okay? What I don't like is drawn out auctions where you're flexible as to what you want to do and they take forever. Paragrid is the worst contender for this. Auctions in this just refuse to friggin' end because you're bidding on these power plants, and because this is a heavy Eurogame where it's very punishing, people can screw you over, every dime counts, it is impossible to get through one of these auctions quick because you can bid whatever you like, from the minimum bid onwards, so you've got total flexibility. But because you've also got to consider how much it's going to cost to get between various points on your map, these connection bits, is the UK a promo map or is that an official map? I don't know, but you've got to factor in, right, how much is it going to cost me to connect from here to here? Oh, God, I've got to factor that in. But then I've also got, hang on, I can just about afford it. If I carry the 1, deduct the 3, add the 2. Right, fine, that's okay. So as long as he doesn't outbid me, I can do it. Right, I'll bid 31. 32. Oh, God's sake, hang on, now I've got to rethink this. 33, I can just about do it. 35. Oh, man, can I? But then I can't afford that. Hang on a minute, let me just do the maths again. Oh, my God, will you friggin' get on with it? And this freezes a lot of people. And then Paragrid's not the only one that causes this. There's a lot of other games with auctions that do this, but it's just the fact that they go on forever. What's another auction game I'm not a fan of? It came out by Alley Cat Games, I want to say. Oh man, it's a Martin Wallace game. I'm going to try and find it. It's about mining in Cornwall. I found this to be kind of basic, but I'll have a look. Alley Cat Games. But it's just the fact that these auctions can just drag out and they're not quick and they're not straightforward. Does QI QE? I think QE has auctions as well, although that's a weird one where you get to write down any amount I wasn't a big fan of. Here you go, Tinner's Trail. Yeah, I found this one barely average at best. I mean, it's not... I think I did a review of it and my rating's probably gone down since that review, but it's Martin Wallace. Don't tend to go through his games that much, but this one, again, it's got auctions and money is paramount, and I don't know, just... It's not even just the fact that they can drag on for ages and they're a bit too AP-inducing. I just don't find them that fun. Auctions are not a fun thing for me. If I sat at an auction in real life, I think I'd just probably be bored because I'd just be sitting there going, oh, he's going to bid 30, he's going to bid 36, he's going to bid 37, he's taking his sweet ass time, oh, he's bid 37, oh, he's 39, whatever. I mean, I don't stare at an eBay auction waiting for it to finish, I just put my maximum bid that I'm willing to spend, and if someone outbids me, so be it. All this thing with sniping at the last minute, it's like, whatever, I'm prepared to pay this much, here's the amount I'm putting in, if it falls at that price, great, but I'm not there going, come on, win. It's like, no, I'm not. I don't know, I just find this a boring mechanism more than anything else. Some games like Paragrid really does my head in, but for the most part, if I get auctions in the game, I'm just like, meh. But quick bidding, fine. Fixed bidding, fine. It's just these drawn out, flexible auctions, like the more realistic ones, just meh. Right, this one I'm going to use Fall of the Mountain King as an example, although to be honest, this could apply for a lot of games in this, and hell, even a World Order that I played, the new one from the makers of Hegemony. It's a mechanism I'm not that big into, but this one's just another sort of poster child for this mechanism. Area control. Yeah, I'm not really a big area control fan, and now area influence up to a point I don't mind, but it's usually always the weakest aspect of a game. Take a Vindication. Vindication, you have all these cool cards you can get and all these cool little thematic things you can do. But one of the ways that you can get points relatively reliably is to control locations. And all it means is that you get a couple of points, and if someone visits it, you get a couple of points. And at the end of the game, you can score more. But it's really boring. You just basically just go, right, I visit it, stick a cube on it, it's mine, I control it. I don't know, area control just isn't that fun to me. And this is Fall of the Mountain King's a classic example because you've got all your different ogres or trolls or whatever it is. I think it's trolls. And, you know, you try to control these different sections of the cave, and it's about who's got the most, and you can get screwed over, and you might spend ages trying to control an area, and then somebody pulls off some random lucky move, and suddenly it's like, oh, now I control it. I get all the cool stuff, you don't. And I just don't find this fun. It's also it's a mechanism that's a little bit dated, like it's been done to death. You know, I mean, so have some of my favorite mechanisms, but you know, these ones I still like. These ones I wasn't a massive fan of before, and now they are just going on and on and on. But World Order was another example of this. I mean, you know, I demoed it at the Games Expo, and it still has some good stuff about it. But at the end of the day, the game is area control, and I don't know how much I enjoy that, to be honest. You know, this aspect where you literally are just putting cubes on these little spots, and whoever has the most cubes at various scoring bits, you know, scores the most points. And you know, you get areas where you're locked out of them because, frankly, like, you know, if I'm playing yellow, for example, I've got no interest in going to these two over here. There's no chance I'm going to beat them. Here, I've gone yellow in these first cubes, but then, you know, by the time it's finished, you know, you get nothing for it. And it just isn't that fun a mechanism. I just don't really get a kick out of going, oh, I'll put a cube on this area. Oh, I've slightly got more control now. He. It doesn't really fill me with that much joy. And not a lot is done with this. I mean, you know, people praise the likes of El Grande. I have still not played El Grande. Now, I want to try El Grande because the card mechanism sounds quite cool in it, but I then have to realize that the game is basically just a bare bones area control game. Am I going to enjoy it on the basis that it's just a bare bones dry area control game? I don't know. I feel like I'll play it and just be like, meh. And it's not, let's say area control games don't typically end up as games that I hate. They just end up as games where I'm like, it exists, whatever. So I'm not really that big on them. You know, I'm trying to think is there any game in my collection that is predominantly area control that really, well, I suppose, actually no, I've just spotted them. Thematic ones do have a place, and exceptions to the rule could include Chaos in the Old World. I do have Chaos in the Old World still. I have not played it in ages though, and maybe that's a problem with the mechanism, but this one is predominantly an area control game, so, you know, and it's one that I still enjoy, although some of it is down to the cards rather than the fact that you are controlling majorities of areas. But then you could also argue that some games that are big, mammoth, space epic games, like Forbidden Stars, for example, how the hell is this still rank 139 on Board Game Geek? When was the last time you saw anybody play this? Except Paul Grogan's, I know he played it recently. But, you know, I've got it. It's still an amazing game, but when was the last time I ever got it out? I've probably forgotten every single rule in it now. There's no way I could bring this out and play it in a quick time. This is an event game. But yeah, you are playing factions and you're battling each other and controlling areas, but I guess there's more to it than just simply the area control. There's the fighty aspect, there's all the other cool tech upgrades and stuff, and it's thematic to the game. So, you know, these are exceptions, but I do think they are special cases. For the most part, area control is just kind of meh. Speaking of meh, roll and right, flip and right, X and right. Whatever the hell and right you want to call it, this mechanism is so dated so quickly. I mean, man, it just got overused. And it infuriates me because if a game comes out that is roll and right, flip and right, but it's unique, fine. And I do have some in my collection that are pretty good. I like Get On Board. That's kind of a flip and write game. I like the Next games, Next London, Next Tokyo, and all that. I think they're really nice flip and write games. But they are their own games. They're not based on something else. Stuff like this, for example, Alhambra Roll and Write. Who the hell is playing Alhambra Roll and Write? Rank 13,000. Alhambra is a decent old dry Euro game. Was anybody that desperate for a roll and write implementation of this? It's just unnecessary. And this is on the search where I looked up more. So Imperial Settlers, roll and write. Woodcraft has a roll and write. I mean, for crying out loud. Lost Cities, roll and write. Copenhagen, roll and write. Escape, roll and write. Yokohama, roll and write. Trismegistus, roll and write. Wait a minute, when the hell did Trismegistus get a roll and write game? What the hell? Was this like a fan-made one? Was it? Oh, print and play. Right, so this was a print and play. I was going to say, when the hell did Trismegistus get a roll and write? But, this, and some of them are unique games. I mean, Walking in Burano, roll and write. Well, no, Walking in Burano was its own card game. And, although the roll and write is actually not too bad. But, it's just so many of these games are just like, oh, we need to make a quick buck. We need to capitalize on something that we've already made a bit of money on. What's the laziest way we can do it? We make a roll and write game. It's just a matter of fact. Because if you really were full of inspiration and full of ideas, you would create a different game. You wouldn't create some roll and write spin-off of something you've already made. Now, sometimes the roll and write ends up better than the original. I mean, Copenhagen roll and write, I would actually argue, is better to play in its roll and write version than it is its normal version. But that's only because the normal version of Copenhagen is pretty bland and dull anyway, so it's like, whatever. Woodcraft roll and write, well, I didn't even know there was such a thing. And oh, look, it's print and play. And that's another thing. I mean, these things appear, but they're not even full releases. They're just print and plays. And that just gets annoying. But that being said, Woodcraft only gave an above average rating to. Maybe I would prefer to play it in a roll and write version. But I don't know, it just feels like a lazy cash grab for the most part. And, sometimes they are unique ones. I mean, I've got draft and write records here, and certainly I'm like, oh god, it's another flip and write. So they have to bring something new to the game in order to make them stand out, or something more interesting. And sometimes, as I say, the next games I really like, tell you what, this one, Twilight Inscription, this is a roll and write I actually do quite enjoy, particularly solo, and I can't get it off the shelf because it's wedged with all my Marvel Champions stuff. Oh, here we go. Oh, bloody hell. Right, this one, I do enjoy this game. It's ridiculously complicated. It's got all the, different maps and stuff that you use, and it is a bit of a monster, but I think some of that is kind of the reason why I like it. It's something that you'd think, oh my god, this is never going to work. But it did work. It did provide a very fun game to play, not necessarily with more than 3 players, but certainly even more solo. I enjoyed this one, even if it is just a bit crazy. I mean, look at the amount of stuff that you've got to draw on. But how everything combos and links, I don't know, this one was unique enough to stand out from the crowd, and so these ones I can get behind. But for the most part, I am just done with this whole X and write stuff. Can we not come up with something a bit more original and a bit more interesting? All right, and then lastly, before I wrap this up, my throat is getting quite sore, we're going to talk about Push Your Luck. Push Your Luck is fine if you want it in a very short game. I mean, a lot of these dice rolling games like Zombie Dice and stuff are mostly Push Your Luck. Hell, Can't Stop is literally a 15-minute Push Your Luck game. The whole thing is just Push Your Luck. But and No Thanks is a filler card game, and it is essentially Push Your Luck. But they are like, 5-10 minutes a piece? They're quick. What I can't stand is Push Your Luck when it's in longer games, and this is the poster child for where it really doesn't work. Now, Push Your Luck can also go hand in hand with other mechanisms, because technically this one is bag building, but it's still Push Your Luck to an extent. It's still an element of like, right, well, could do better, but I'm going to push my luck and draw more and see what happens. But you are basically basing it on luck, so you can get screwed over. In a short game, that is fine. Wonderland's War is not a short game. It says 45 to 125 minutes on that clock. You are not playing this game in 45 minutes. Get out of here with those lies, okay? This is a game that regularly takes 2 hours at least, and people will play this for 3.5 hours. This game can go on crazy long. It really does inflate over 125 minutes on a regular basis. I don't want to play a game that's push your luck that takes 2.5 to 3 hours. That's not what I'm here for, okay? And so this one put me off a lot because of it. I mean, it looks gorgeous, and it certainly has some other fun aspects to it. I like the mechanism where you move around the middle and get like cool bonuses and stuff. You know, that's really cool. I like these card abilities that you can use. I mean, the artwork is gorgeous. You know, it's good. A little asymmetric player powers, although they're not balanced to say the least. But the idea that it is a lot of push your luck. I mean, it's basically Quedlinburg if you added an extra 2 hours to the game length. And Quedlinburg kind of works because it's about an hour long, but even then it's getting to that point. But stuff like Wonderland's War, where it's just way too long for a push-your-luck mechanism. Push-your-luck needs to be in short games because I don't want to be going, right, well, I've spent 2.5 hours doing this stuff, and now I'm basically going to go, right, well, it all comes down to this. Push-your-luck. Oh, it didn't work. Oh, well, there goes the game, and there's 2.5 hours worth of planning, like, screwed over. It does not work for me. But if you keep the game short, nice and short, I'm totally fine with that. And Can't Stop is the purest form of... Why did that come up as a toss-up when I said can't stop? How does that work? Yeah, I definitely said can't stop. Right, there you go, can't stop. 1980 that came out, Jesus. But, this game is at its purest form a simple push your luck. You roll dice, you try to get the tokens, you move your thing up, but at the end of the day, you're pushing your luck as to how far you can go before you bust. Fine, but it's a cheap, easy, push your luck dice game. It takes it says 30 minutes. It'll take you about 15 to 20 really. It's just nice and easy, nice and cheap. Not saying it's a game that I want to play all the time. It's a push your luck game. I don't generally go for this mechanic even in the smaller games, but at least in a smaller game I can take it and it's done with and it's done and dusted. But in a long game, oh man, this is not a mechanism I like to see. Anything else that's kind of push your luck? Oh, Distilled. Distilled's another good example. I wanted to like Distilled. It's got other problems. The card text is way too small. The game takes a bit longer for what it is. But I don't like this top and tail thing, or whatever it is, when you have the cards, you're trying to brew a drink, and then you I forget how it works. You take like cards off the top and the bottom, shuffle them, and one gets discarded or something. I forget how it works in the mechanism. But it's basically push your luck, because you are trying to make this drink, but then you might find that your key ingredient gets shuffled out because of this mechanism. But that's annoying because you've only got 7 rounds. You need to make these drinks. It's paramount that you succeed. Yes, you get a small bonus if you don't, but it's not worth it. It's not to say it's a horrible bonus. I don't want to take it, but at the end of the day, I wanted to make the goddamn drink. I didn't make this so I could fail. I made it so that I could succeed. Getting a consolation prize is just to, put a plaster on the wound, basically. But I really don't like that mechanism in this game, and it kind of kills it for me. I really do think the card text is way too small, and they should have thought about that in the graphic design process. But yeah, that whole push your luck mechanism in a game that is not that short. I mean, what does it say on here? What lies would it tell me here? Oh no, that's actually pretty accurate, actually. 30 to 150. Although I dare say you are not going to play this in half an hour solo, but yeah, you are talking a game that can go on for 2 hours, 2.5 hours. This is not a short game. So why do you base the whole game on a bout of luck? It's just not on. September. Oh, this was another example. I gave this one a 4 out of 10. It's got other problems, but the trial mechanism in this is, at the end of the day, push your luck. You are, what is it? Yeah, here you go. You've put these things into a bag and you draw them out, and the majority gets the witch. Getting these witches is of paramount importance to succeed in the game. And you could put in as many as you like, and your luck could still bounce back and hit you, and you don't get anything for it. And there's not enough time to recover from a spout of bad luck. It's a stupid mechanism in this game. I really did not like it. And again, it's another one of those things of, why are you putting push your luck in a 3-hour game? It's not right. So, yeah, not one I'm a fan of. So yeah, there you go. That's kind of like a summary of like 4 mechanisms I really get behind. 4. Hang on, I'm gonna take a drink. Whew. Oh yeah, my throat's really going. But yeah, 4 mechanisms I get behind, 4 that I don't. And there are other mechanisms I don't like. There are other mechanisms I do like. I can't go over every single one, but I just wanted to talk about some key ones that either grate me a bit more, or when I see them, I'm like, ooh, tell me more. And aren't just unique to a particular game. Like I mentioned the whole Dixit mechanic. I do really like the Dixit picture card mechanic, but it's kind of unique to those styles of games. It's not like any game can simply throw in the mechanic. It's a very specific genre of games that are having that mechanic, and I do love them. But, I was trying to think of something a little bit more far-reaching. I mean, as much as the typewriter mechanic is only in 2 games, I feel like a lot of games could use that typewriter mechanic. They just need to do it. Anyway, that's it for me on this episode. I'll see you on the Big Bonanza Q&A 100th episode. I look forward to that one. So, what's that, 2 weeks' time? So, end of August, start of September, you will get that episode. So, by all means, hope you see it. I'll talk about the Meet and Play event more. So, by all means, when I finalize details, come and see me at Essen at that time. If you want to talk better in person, quieter. But by all means, just say hi to me at Essen, regardless of where I am. That would be great. Hopefully, I'm in a demo with you at some point. Other than that, I'm going to go sort myself out, dry myself off a bit because I'm sweating a little bit, and prepare for my parents' arrival in literally 27 minutes. So, yeah. I talk about how stressed I've been lately, and this is just sort of adding to it a bit, but things will be good when the parents are here. They help me out with a bit of housework. They're nice. Dad's going to help me out with some gardening bits. We're going to go out for a meal. It's nice. This will be a time for me to chillax. Starting from now. Okay? Take care, and I'll see you on the next episode. And remember, it's only a game. Bye for now.